This is going to degenerate.
From what I gather, you have been on a journey, a soul-searching journey. So let's start from the beginnings. Yeah, tell us your story.
Okay, story's quite simple. On Wednesday, I had this conversation with a friend of mine who told me about this great Sufi master who was coming to Slough, of all places.
How long ago was this?
I was 23, so I'm now older than that, so it was a while ago, you know what I mean? And what happened was we were going to go to Slough to see this guy. It was going to be a gathering, and they were going to whirl and what have you. I didn't know any of this. And there was a knock on the door, and my mother's like, look, your friend's here. And I'd totally forgotten. So what happened was we decided to, go down to Slough. On the way out the door, my mother went faithfully to my friend, make him a Sufi and then bring him back. I then spent 4 days away from home, in which time my mother was looking to throw me out of the house because she thought I was in London partying, which I wasn't. I came back 4 days later with my teacher, who was a Sufi from the Qadri school. And I spent 8 years with this guy, literally following him around the world and learning whatever it was, he had to teach me. The way he taught me was kind of quite intuitive. So there's about 10, 15 minutes where somebody read something out of a book and said, you must be like this, this, this. And then I was just literally instructed by this guy, whether he was physically there or not.
So your friend
Yes.
just said, oh, do you want to come along to this event? And you said, all right, I'll just give it a go.
Yes, it was literally like that. What happened is I'd never come across anything like Sufism until about literally a week prior. And this friend of mine was actually a student of another teacher, and his whole plan was to get me to meet this other teacher. And he'd given me all these books, and I was reading because I was looking for answers. I was going through depression at the time, so I was looking for some way to kind of ease my suffering. Fate intervened, and we ended up meeting a teacher from another school because he also became his student as well. I had no idea what I was doing, literally. I woke up on a Sunday morning after the Urus, which was the festival. I'd whirled, tried it, thought, yes, it's quite cool. And then somebody went, why don't you become a myriad, which is why don't you become a student? And I was like, well, yeah, why not?
What language is that?
That's Urdu. That's Urdu I'm speaking, yeah, sorry. But I became a myriad and I didn't know what I was doing. So the teacher then left and I spent, about a week or so in Coventry University Library where I realised I had a Sufism section and read about 10, 11 books and still was none the wiser. And then the teacher would appear every year and I'd go along. I wasn't a particularly good student, but one of the things he said to me was go and sit with the traditions. And my father bringing me up had been totally okay with me going and sitting with the traditions anyway. So after spending 8 years with the teacher, went to Pakistan to meet him at a festival and had some amazing experiences. When I came back, I felt peaceful, but I didn't have my answers. And it was around that time that I then moved to Glasgow because I'm originally from Coventry, and spent about 3 months in a flat and intensely asking myself what it was that was kind of holding me back in my life. Why wasn't I happy? Why wasn't life working? Because I'd got to the point where if I didn't get my answers, I was just going to just not be very happy, so to speak. But there was a real desperation in what I was looking to do. So I started looking at other traditions. I started looking at things like non-duality, Buddhism, Zen, all of that. And because of my situation, it was literally reading books, going to a local library, but spending a lot of time by myself, kind of asking myself questions, going for lots of walks and just trying to figure it out, because I'd got past that point of techniques and methods, and I just knew that although this stuff worked, it wasn't working for me. It then culminated in a series of awakenings where I started seeing glimpses of this reality that would give me my answer, so to speak. I mean, that's probably like a really simple way of putting it. 2-3 years after that event, I went home to Coventry one day. Along the way, I met this really interesting character who's a Sufi, who was kind of quite a modern kind of a version, like, he was dressed in like leather trench coats and things like that. But we had a conversation, and a couple of days later, I was literally sitting on a sofa, and this thought, the best way to kind of put it was almost like world inside me, and I stopped looking, and that was it. And literally about 4 or 5 months later, I started talking. I started meeting people individually, in groups, one-on-ones, and talking to people about self-realization, about how to actually end their seeking, because everybody's looking in some way, shape or form. And it's a practical reality, but the destination can be found. But the way it's being taught at the moment is that people feel that it's okay for the guy sitting on a hill in India somewhere, or the guy sitting in a cave, but it can never happen to me, because guess what? I've got 2.4 kids, I've got a job, I've got this and that, and I haven't got time to do that. So it's literally taken ideas that I've cold from teachings and stuff, and also from the East, and kind of put it in a very practical setting. So I don't wear robes, I don't have the beard and all that stuff, and I prefer to kind of converse with people and literally just do question and answer. And what you find is most people have got maybe one or two thoughts which are keeping them away from the life that they truly want, and whatever that is, whether it's something as superficial as, I don't know, I want, the ultimate shoe and handbag collection, to, that's not superficial, I suppose, to, I'm looking for great spiritual truth. So I best way to put it is I help people, I facilitate, do you know what I mean? I'm part teacher, I'm part friend, I'm part pretty much everything. I believe that this spirituality isn't something that we should be doing as an hour or two here or there, but a very real practical way of living. So, it should be helping you physically, mentally, spiritually as well. This concept of jihad in Islam, and it means to strive. However, it's got bad press and everyone thinks it means something else. But strive to be a better person on a daily basis. So as we're sitting here, I'm striving to do a better conversation, a better interview. And it shows that life, if you follow the trail, will give you everything you want. So you have these synchronistic moments, you meet people, and what you find is life is willing to give you everything you want. You just have to trust yourself, to trust that life will do the right thing, which is, it's a bit crazy one, really.
And were you raised religious?
No, that was the funny thing. I was brought up in a Muslim household, but my father had no issue with me sitting with other traditions. So, but then years later, talking to friends of my father, I could see that he was well grounded in the Sufi tradition, which is really about meeting everybody in the middle and kind of saying, well, we're all saying the same thing. And just because your geographical location is here or your geographical location is there, just because of the culture and the place you're in, you're actually saying the same thing as me. I mean, there's a cool story that Idris Shah narrates in his book, The Sufis, and I love telling it. It's about three men and they all want a grape. So they use their word for a grape, and invariably they end up in an argument because one goes, well, I want angur, and one goes, I want grape. And a man who goes past, who's a linguist, who can be seen in this story to be the Sufi, who understands that they're saying the same thing, goes, give me the gold coin that you have, I'll give you what you need. And when he comes back with the grapes, they invariably get into another argument. And what we are really doing is we're arguing about descriptions. But the actual essence of what we're seeking or what we are is essentially the same. And that transcends language. And by talking to people and kind of, in a sense, helping with their thoughts or their ideas or whatever, people can realize what they are. Because it's really about you at the end of the day. It's really about like finding what you truly are. If at all anything needs to be found, if anything has actually been lost, which is the caveat here.